Hey, folks, that was It's Game Time by Axion's Ghost, and you are listening to Kaisers Kastle. Today I have a treat for you. Princess Byrd Wells. I've done a show with her earlier in my podcast on my page. My last podcast was 175 shows, so this is my 176th show. What I will tell you is Princess Byrd Wells, besides having a parrot that barks, you may hear it in the background, and having another lovely little parrot, uh, she is a Second Amendment advocate. For all those people out there that think that the youth, they don't understand the Constitution and stuff like that, well, she's living proof. She's much younger than I am. That's a fallacy and it's wrong. So don't group everybody into one. She's also an accomplished author, having authored, I think, 4 books. She'll correct me if I'm wrong. There may be more. She's prolific in her writing. She has her own blog. She has a presence on Facebook, several presences, actually. She loves going to like Comic Cons and stuff like that. She's really hip. And I find her a great person to talk with. She's also been a co-host with myself, Jaffe, and Vinny on WPRPN, World Pirate Radio Podcast Network. And that's where we'll go sometimes and just talk about the news and other things. Have interviews. He interviews people also. This will be a fun little chat. We're going to talk about the Second Amendment. And with that being said, thanks for stopping by Kaisers Kastle there, Byrd. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Yeah, just to correct you, yeah, there's definitely more than 4 books out. I believe I'm up to 7.
I figured. I thought I was going on the low count, but I figured I thought I was going on the low count, but the reason why is we haven't talked in. It's been over 100 podcasts, I think, since we've last talked, and I know how prolific you were with it. So just keep going on with your tell everybody where to find you and all that kind of good stuff, and then we can get on with the show.
Well, my name is Jaybird Wells, Jaebyrd Wells. And yes, I'm very prolific on Facebook. I've got 5 business accounts with 20,000 connections. I'm still picky who I add, although sometimes some weasels get through. Like my fan page, I'm trying to get up to 4,444 likes. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Don't forget my International Movie Database page. Actually, I have 2 pages up now for International Movie Database. I've got 2 credits. I'm still working on my second sci-fi, but my poetry book is published. It's called Songs in the Key of J. And also, I'm still working on the J's Funny But True series that everybody seems to love reading on Facebook. I'm still doing radio with the World Pirate Radio. I'm still doing radio with Jiggy Jaguar. I'm just still learning how to be self-sufficient, and yes, I have a big mouth when it comes to protecting the Second Amendment and the First Amendment. Actually, protecting the First Amendment came from protecting the Second Amendment because I was told that I should remove guns out of my book because they would drive readers away. So I just became known as a big mouth witty broad.
There you go. That's apropos, and that's awesome stuff. Everybody, do check out all of her links that she's just shared. One of the fascinating things is just in her introduction, self-sufficiency. One of the key marks and hallmarks of self-sufficiency is being able to defend oneself and also gather your own food. Thus, it dovetails right into self-sufficiency, what used to be called survivalism, now they call it prepping. If you want to touch on any or all of those subjects, I'd be happy for you to run with it.
Well, I don't know if I've mentioned this on your show before, but when we moved to my farm, I didn't know how to shoot a gun. I was taught growing up as a girl that guns were a boy's thing. Wasn't even allowed to look at it. I knew that they were around. I knew, that my grandpa shot guns and hunted deer because I got to eat the deer sausage. So that was really good. Um,
Nice.
my husband, he was a big Second Amendment guy. I knew he was, but I was kind of timid of guns because I hadn't had any experience on it. So therefore, I then had some problems with some critters, four-legged critters. I actually had skunks and opossums chase me on the farm. And I would call the local cops because, they were supposed to be animal control. And what they told me was that I shouldn't be on a farm without learning how to shoot a gun. And the neighbors just laughed at me, and they wouldn't come over and shoot the four-legged evil things. And we actually had 3 packs of coyotes take out 70 chickens in one summer. So I definitely hate coyotes. They took out $4,000 worth of sheep and goats last year. I still haven't got me one killed with a gun, but I did get to run one over with a car. I learned how to, when the CCW came out, my husband insisted I do it, and I wasn't too crazy because of the fingerprinting or whatever, but I went ahead and did it, and I found out that it provides you with a safety net because the federal rule says no guns within 1,000 feet of a school. Well, like in the big city of Wichita, that's a school every 1,000 yards. So technically, you're committing a felony unless you have a CCW, just walking around town.
Oh yeah.
So I like my CCW in that aspect, but I would like to see. I think Trump was talking about passing a unlicensed CCW. I would prefer that better. I actually started carrying my gun after a goat tried to kill me. I wasn't, at the time, I wasn't really sure about carrying my gun, even though I had a CCW. And I tried to carry it that day for some weird instinct, and I had a goat try to kill me, and so I shot at the goat. And he sung a higher tune. I shot under him and nicked his balls, so instead of saying "meh," he said "meh."
That's funny.
Changed his gender identity. So after that, I had, like every woman has issues with being molested. I got molested, and my gun is my safety net. I will not be molested again. So yeah, that's where I stand.
Yep.
I pass. Be surprised. I pass out safety rules at Comic Cons. I sign.
You there, Jay Byrd? Okay. I think we lost Jay Byrd. Let me try to reestablish. Let me try to reestablish contact with her. And as I'm doing that, hopefully you guys are enjoying this. She lives kind of out in the sticks, and so her internet's kind of spotty. So please give it a chance of letting me reestablish this. We just started getting into the meat and potatoes, and maybe I should let her call me back. Shoot. Well, anyways, till she gets back, she's hit on all the points. There's a book out called 3 Felonies a Day. And like she said, if you have a CCW and you're driving by a school, technically you're in violation of that federal law, even though you're just driving by. And it's kind of the ridiculousness of some of these federal laws with regards to firearm ownership. And that is an abridgment of your Second Amendment rights. And hopefully I can get her on this turn. There we go. We lost you right about the time that you had just started talking about carrying your firearm as a as around schools and all that stuff, and I went in depth on that book, Three Felonies a Day, which, like you said, technically, even though you're driving by a school, you are violating their no schools law, because they put it out to 1,000, feet. That's quite a distance. So just carry on with where you were going. I'm still recording, Jay Byrd. I hope you can hear me. Okay. Well, she's on the line, so I know that. That's a fact. So maybe she can hear me. Maybe she can't. See what's going on with this. I really don't want to have to do another complete show. So hopefully she may be having mic problems, headset problems. I don't know. Says you're still on the line with me there, Jay Bird. Let me see. Can you type something to me? Somehow let me know if you can hear me at least. Yes. Okay, cool. So just sort out whatever issue you've got. I'll keep talking, and that way you'll know what to jump. And like she said, she lives out on a farm, so the internet's kind of wonky for her. And it's way out in the sticks, folks, and she loves it. She's got just to fill you in while we're waiting for that to be sorted. The internet can come and go sometimes for her. And that's because, she's got to have that special type of internet since they haven't, even though Al Gore and, let me see, Obama and everybody said they were going to string and make sure everywhere in America could have internet access. Well, they lied. And, we got her back. How's it going, Jay Burt?
Didn't work.
It's fine. You sound fine. Just roll with it. Go with it. You're fine. I got you.
Come on.
I can hear you. I can hear you. You're just run with it. Run with it.
There we go.
Yep, you're good.
Connected.
Cool. Keep running with it. Just talk. Everything you're saying is being recorded, and I can't edit this. Just run with your story.
One.
Yep. Jay Bird, I got you. Well, I hope we didn't just lose her again.
Oh, no, I just had to get the hands-free Bluetooth. I don't know how much battery I got on the hands-free, but it's the best one in the business anyway.
Well, you're fine. You're fine. So hopefully you heard everything that I was saying. So just run with this.
But I did hear about how you had left off when I was talking about the 3 felonies when in the 1,000-yard CCW.
Right.
Yeah, I did hear that.
Yep. And I let them know that you live on a farm where the internet could be intermittent after that. And I said, so please forgive it. And I thought you could hear me all the way up to there. And I said, as soon as she comes on, we'll continue on from the 3 felonies. So you are jumping on right at the right point.
All right. Well, I don't know, so I might be repeating myself, but I started carrying a gun when I wasn't really comfortable. Yeah. No. Can you hear me?
Okay. Yeah, you went through the reason why you started carrying and about the goat and everything like that. So you also have to understand, Princess Wells is a mommy. So she may be having to deal with her children, and that's okay. That's just life. Just like the parrots, just like my dog's barking in the background. If people can't appreciate that, then they can't appreciate the real talks that we provide on Kaisers Kastle. We talk without a filter. We don't edit, and so everything comes through. And
can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you fine. I was just making sure to fill the time when you said no. I just said, she's a mommy, folks. Don't worry about it.
So anyway, where I was at was you already caught that a goat tried to kill me?
Yes, everything up to that point. We got you all the way up to the point where
Yeah.
you had talked about carrying a gun within 1,000 meters and the 3 felonies a day, and you were about to roll with it. So just roll from there. You're awesome.
Okay, so yeah, it's a stupid law about uh a federal law saying you can't walk within 1,000 yards of a building, or you can't drive within 1,000 yards. So it's a stupid law. I would like it if Trump would pass that no need for a CCW law, or
Nationwide, nationwide reciprocal carry.
oh, I don't know what. I'm just gonna try to roll with it.
Yep,
Uh,
yep,
just roll with it. So I look forward to what Trump can do for the Second Amendment. I'm not too happy that he sat there and got rid of bump stocks, because that once you start in on picking away the crust of a of a gun or a crust of a pizza, then you just don't have anything left. I think that opens up too many doors. Um, so in that with that,
yep,
um,
yeah,
I don't know if you caught on that I do pass out safety rules at Comic Cons.
yep, yep.
Um, so I think after that, I was getting ready to mention about how I posted a joke on Facebook. Um, and instead of having the support of the Second Amendment, I got hornswallowed. I got bashed. I got blocked by people that should be supporting. Um, the joke had to do with telling the truth and facts about. It was saying that if we should, the joke would have tricked liberals into repealing the NFA, which is the National Firearms Act.
Right, of
Uh,
1928 and then 1968.
yeah, with based on pure emotions of actual facts of the truth of what laws are, saying that yes, you can own a machine gun with the proper tax stamp.
Yep.
If it was before 19, uh, was it 38 or 58?
Well, there were several chances. You had the 20s Act. You also had it in the 60s, right after Vietnam, 68. And then in 84, they further 83, 84, somewhere in that time span. I think it actually was implemented in 84, but I've been wrong before on exact dates as I'm going by memory. I'd have to be looking at my USC to remember. And that's a regulation, and it's what I always tell people. A regulation de facto can be and should be considered a law because it is enforced by men with guns. Imagine that hypocrisy, right, Jay Byrd?
Yeah, yeah. That's like the actors and the celebrities and the political representatives that's trying to get rid of guns, and they have bodyguards that use guns. Yeah, that's
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, it's crazy. It's a gun is nothing more than a tool. It's like
yeah.
I hate to be vulgar, but you know I sometimes am. It's like people say a condom's useless unless there's a time to use it. And you know what I'm
That's
saying?
good.
So,
Yeah, well, that's no the way I describe it to people is like a screwdriver or a wrench. You know, you've got different heads on a screwdriver that you use for different tools or different occasions. You
right.
know, not not every building needs the same kind of screw or nut or bolt. The different things need different solutions, and that's my defense when I say that. Well, you can't carry an AR. A handgun's more feasible, but you need an AR to get rid of the four-legged creatures. And then out I out where I live, there was a gal who had a stalker, and you know my nearest neighbor is 3 miles away, so nobody can hear
Right.
you when you cry for help. And there was a gal who she had a stalker, and a guy went in, killed all her children and her husband, raped her, and then killed her, and then set the house on fire. So,
Yep.
and that's one thing that I had the cops telling me, was that I would tell them that, hey, there's somebody here looking at my stuff that looks like they're, suspected of looking at robbing my place. And the cops aren't there to prevent a crime. They're only there to catch somebody after they prevent the crime.
And
So
that's
I
and be,
had cops telling me that I needed to defend myself. And my husband was like, who's going to protect you and the kids if I'm not around? So he felt it was being a lack of self-sufficiency or survival if I didn't know how to defend myself. So growing up, I taught my kids that, even the girls needed martial arts lessons, because they needed to be able to defend themselves, and the boys needed it because, there's so many times when a guy will feel the honorable task of standing up for a woman, and he can't even defend himself. So, like, yeah, you can stop off and stop a crime from happening of a woman getting beat in the alley or raped in the alley, but if you can't defend your own self, how can you defend her?
well,
It's an honor.
it's like I used to say when I was actually a cop and talking to people. Here's the deal. Cops are not there. Maybe they'll catch the person who did it. A cop comes there after the fact, and they're there
Yeah.
simply to file the report: the who, what, when, where, why, and how. Who's dead? When it happened? Where it happened? The how it happened? And maybe the why. And sometimes the how and the why, those things
Never.
need more figured out. And so the who of who did it, that is the trick. That and the maybe the possible why and the how. So everybody always wants to get into these CSI things, and yeah, there's some factual stuff to that, but most of finding the bad guy is just pure shoe leather investigation. Go out and talk to the persons.
Yeah.
Find the witnesses. Because I'm of the opinion, I don't care how far out you live. Remember the Atlanta killers. For a long time, they were saying that it had to be a white guy. It had to be a white guy. Come to find out, it was a black gentleman who was killing kids. And it was only because they were staking out all these bridges and somebody heard a splash and they pulled a car over. And guess what it was? It was a black man. So it's the whole thing where you don't know the who, all this profiling stuff. It's all neat. Sometimes it works, but it's always a generalization. It's almost like when you go to a, how do I put this? And polygraph exams are pretty much the same way. They keep claiming scientific stuff, but it's always subjective, and it's up to the examiner or the investigator as to how accurate they are. And they make mistakes, just like everybody. But I believe every crime has a witness. The key is to find that witness, because that witness may not talk because they're afraid. And so that's my 2 cents on that. But you're exactly right on several of your points. And so keep rolling with it, girl.
Well, I'm gonna keep.
Yep, you're having some issues with your internet right now, so just keep trying to talk, and that way we can suss it out. You're coming in and out, so hopefully you're not about to drop again. There we go. All right, dead air is never good, so I'll keep. Looks like we dropped. I figured we did. So going back to the point until I can get her back. Hopefully, I can get her back quick. Um, It's just very interesting. Yep. There we go. Yeah, you dropped for a minute again. So that's fine. Like I said, you were about to roll with it, so just go with it. It just kept breaking up, and then all of a sudden you weren't there. So I just kept talking and hoped that it would reestablish, but I got the little click, 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 click. So just go on and go where we stopped off at, because pretty much I started to go just to fill in the dead air. So roll with it, Jaybird.
Yeah.
It's your show. Roll with it. Keep trying. You're not coming through. Keep trying. Keep talking.
Hear me now.
There we go. Go, Jaybird. Go. Jaybird. Shoot. She's got to be in a bad area. Jaybird, go.
Yes.
Go, 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 go now.
Let me see what we're doing with the speaker.
You just keep rolling. This is all being recorded, Jaybird. You got to run with it. I want to.
No.
Can you hear me?
Yes, it's just on speakerphone. So.
Yeah, just roll with it. Go with it. This is your show. I can't edit this.
Yeah, I don't know why I've had so much problems. I apologize for all the problems.
It's not a problem. Just go with. Don't worry about. Just go with what we were talking about. You were getting ready to talk about, what I just talked about.
Phone. There.
It's fine. Just go. I can hear you. Run. Do it.
Okay. I'm sorry. It's on speaker. So anyway, we were chatting about the Second Amendment and my love for the Second Amendment and how I would like to support the First Amendment. I think I've mentioned before about how even the word gun is evil now. You know, this isn't the first time that society has changed based on words and opinions. Um, I know that some people might not realize it, but April used to be the beginning of the year, um, and people were called fools to continue celebrating April 1st as the beginning of the year, and then they changed it to January 1st. So, just by demonizing and making fun of individuals, you can change a society to where you see nowadays where, nobody celebrates December as the not they celebrate December as the last of the year instead of Deca, which is the 10th month of the year. So just by making people feel foolish and making fun of them, it can change a whole entire society, which can affect the whole world. And that's the way I see it with the Second Amendment. Is we are now being demonized. We are now being dehumanized. Anybody that stands up for the little guy is being dehumanized. So I really believe that words are powerful, and
Yep.
words can change society. And so I really believe that. And I've been sitting there and I've been warning people since 2014 when my book was published. When I was told that leave guns out of the book because it'll drive readers away. I know authors that left guns out of the book so they could get published. It's okay for the liberals to say that you could have fake weapons. You can have fiery swords. You can have fake Star Wars weapons. But God forbid you mention, a real gun in a real situation, like I did in my first sci-fi. Um, that's just incomprehensible. And Not only that, but Second Amendment supporters are not allowed to have emotions. You cannot be happy. You cannot be angry. You are not allowed emotions. The liberals have the license or the copyright on emotions. Um, and God forbid you make somebody with a Second Amendment supporter mad because well, if you have the means and opportunity, that means that you're going to hurt me. No, that's not what it's saying.
Right.
Just because you have a hammer doesn't mean you're going to go out and commit murder. Just because you have a pillow doesn't mean you're going to go out and suffocate somebody. Just because you have a swimming pool in the backyard does not mean you're going to go and throw your neighbor into your swimming pool and drown him. Just because you have the tool does not mean that you have the moral incapacity of choosing right from wrong. I hope I made some good points here.
No, no, you've made some very good points. No, my point being is that you've hit all of a bunch of good hot button issues, but it's all societal changing. It's cultural Marxism that you've mentioned. And like you said, look at the movie Gunslinger that was made based off of a book by Stephen King, and even three books actually. It was a trilogy, and they had to do all kinds of hoopty hoops because the guy actually carried a revolver. Imagine that.
That's that's ridiculous.
Right.
Yeah, there's so many movies where the Hollywood depicts guns in a bad light, and they don't have accurate information with Hollywood. Um,
Oh, even in the war movies, trust me, I've seen explosions. I know what firearms sound like and what they do, and they will make it look totally stupid. That's true.
yeah, yeah, and well, that's the same with imagery. If you demonize something or if you make it exaggerated, then you're more likely to believe a lie than the truth, which is a sad fact. But it's like bringing it back to that joke I posted about the NFA. Somebody actually tried to say I meant the NRA, and another person commented with a picture of what I wrote and say no, she meant what she said with the NFA. And it's like a lot of people on Facebook, Second Amendment supporters, they don't think that a cosplayer can be a Second Amendment advocate. It's like they'll look at my picture with the belly dancing Jedi or the belly dancing Sith or the Catwoman cosplay, and they automatically assume that I am not a Second Amendment supporter. Now, I put a picture of me holding my gun on my featured photos so
Yep.
that I'm not lying to people. I put myself out there. I like guns. If you just go to my wall and you look at my featured photo, there it is. But it's like I'll comment on something or I'll post a joke, and the Second Amendment supporters, like I told some people, this joke would have tricked liberals into repealing the NFA, but I'm having to defend myself for ignorant Second Amendment supporters that have God complexes that can't get off of their high horse and go beyond a picture, go beyond my exterior and look at my interior.
Well, see, that's the whole juxtaposition. I know you think it's a rarity for a cosplayer to be a Second Amendment supporter, but I've met a lot of people that enjoy, fantasy and different things and going out there and being, dressing up and stuff. They're LARPing, live action role playing, and there's nothing wrong with that. You might want to mute because I'm getting some feedback from that. And then when I'm finished, just roll in. But the awesome part is that's not a rarity. The problem is within cosplay, You've probably met a lot of people that you're like, they'll be like, oh, cool, you're a Second Amendment supporter. Just like I know I have met some people that I thought were, and we're talking liberals, that weren't advocates for the Second Amendment. And they're completely advocates. And it's only by going to NRA dinners, but a matter of fact, I met my wife at an NRA dinner. And to look at her, you would never think it, that she was an NRA supporter, that she was a gun advocate. But she is just like you, not with some of the other things, but with you, she knows that Smith and Wesson made God made everybody equal, but still there's a strength difference. Smith and Wesson made everybody equal because that power dynamic's removed by a high velocity, heavy piece of lead moving downrange at the target accurately. Running with that, lady. Man, I hope she didn't just drop again. Are you there, Jay Bird?
No, I'm here.
Cool. There you go.
I keep trying to fix the speaker issue, but it's still not cooperating. But yeah, that's the most beautiful thing ever said to a woman. It's like for many years, I'm a klutz. I'm sorry. I admit it. People joke that I need bubble wrap because I'm a klutz. For many years, I'd have these bruises. I'm like, I don't know where they came from. And so people thought my husband was beating me. And now I get to say, hey, he buys me guns. He made sure I learned how to use them. He even let me, help me go to classes that other instructors taught me. You know, he's not beating me. If he was beating me, he would not allow me to touch a gun. So, I'm sorry to say, but guns make women equal to a big burly guy that can get you in the back of an alley in the dark alley.
Oh, that's so true. I mean, if you think about it, my wife's demure, smaller than I am, but she, with a pistol, I'm going to be very clear, she's a much better shot, and I'll tell you why. Um, just like as me as an instructor, and I've taught a lot of civilians, women will tend. Okay, there's a man thing, this dynamic, right, where men don't want to be thought of less by other dudes. Where women, they will listen and they will become better shooters for that. Yeah, if you're gonna send stuff to me, don't do it while the program's going because it makes a noise. So we can do that afterwards. Like I said, the next program we'll do, I'll put images in, but I got to sort that out through my OBS. Yeah, I'm a Gen Xer, but I got mad boomer skills.
Sorry.
Yeah, no
Still trying
problem.
to fix the speakerphone.
No problem, no problem. Just go on and run with that because you're exactly right. Women are made equal by having good training. And guess what? You think I would ever raise a hand to my wife in violence? Hell no. She'd ventilate my cranium. And it's a respect thing too. And you know what? People say bruises this, bruises that. And, shit, there's been times I've gotten bruised, and you know what? I figured out where it came from. My stairwell, the little arm thing that hangs down, it's got a sharp corner, and I probably when I'm drunk or something stupid, I banged into it going upstairs to the restroom. So I mean, all that stuff's so mox nicks. My wife's abusing me, man, because I got bruises. It sounds stupid, and people who say that they're ignorant.
Well, we've reached a point in society where now they're sitting there calling rape for married couples. God forbid a woman have a drink of alcohol and have relations, because then she's being raped. Um, it's ridiculous. All these words that are being overused and overabused, and it's just screwing up society. Um, yeah, that's my opinion. You know, I there's gonna we're being sissified. We used to make fun of the French, because they would run away from a fight, And that's what's happening in America and they started on the playgrounds. You know, you're not allowed to stand up for yourself to a bully. Um, you know, it's almost like the bullies are being coddled
It
instead of
is.
and this war on bullies. It doesn't really seem like a war on bullies because it seems like it's a war on victims, where the victims are not allowed to cry out. And the problem with that, from what we've seen overseas, is eventually that's going to get into our government system from the playgrounds to the government. Because I don't care how much war on bullies you have, all you're doing is changing the kids because there are still bullies in the work area. That's not going to change. Bullies are not going to go away.
True.
But
True. And
but
I
but when you start coddling the bullies instead of the victims, you're going to have the same thing as overseas, where the robbers are being protected and the homeowners are being um the homeowners are being criminalized.
No, you're very factual on that, and here's the problem. It's very problematic. It's being done. You got to remember, in the '60s and '70s, the left, that was their last big push, and they pushed after Obama towards the very tail end of his presidency, and they've been continually pushing. These are the same tired retreads of the '60s pushing Marxism and Maoism. And what they have to do is tear down your history, tear down your morals, your ethos. If you've never heard Yuri Brezhnenov's speech on normalization, that's what the U.S. we call it something different, but it is classical normalization. And so what you're seeing right now is the normalization of Americans, and it is in the children. You know, the children are always the future. Never forget that. And that's why they also don't want people to homeschool. And so the fact remains is that not necessarily here's the fact that remains. With my history of what I do for a living, and you know what I do. This isn't about me, it's about you. There are bullies overseas, and weakness, which is what we're teaching our children to do, will cause a nation to fall. But just like Rome, just like Greece, they didn't fall from the outside enemy. They fell from within because you let the enemy within the gate. I hope that clarifies and elucidates, I guess, some of what you said, in my opinion.
Well, you can't stand if you're like pussyfooting and dancing in quicksand. Sorry.
No, you're right. Totally.
And once you knock out courage, um, you have defeated them. And that's the thing about victims standing up for themselves is courage. Um, I just saw a post here just this morning where all the gun violence is not by the NRA members. It's not by just most of the sorry to say, but most of the drive-by shootings would be resolved if we just legalized dueling. You know, have the courage to back up your tiff or stand down.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's the old adage, you know, you smited my honor, and it doesn't. People always screw this up. They say dueling. Oh, that means you want to take 10 paces and shoot at each other with a pistol. No, that's dueling can be simply boxing. It can be simply a wrestling match or
Exactly.
a full on fight, sword play. Dueling had many faces, and it was to restore dignity or to back your words up with literally your ass. Your ass was on the line. But of course they vilified everybody and they say dueling means we shoot at each other from 10 paces. No. That's not what the classical definition was. It would the opponents would both get a second and they would all have a conference. It was done. There were rules to it. and it was an honor code. And then, okay, you said something about my wife. Cool. Well, how are we gonna handle this? Pistols? Nah. Let's. It's not to that degree. Why don't we just go into the ring, or maybe we bare knuckle it, and maybe we get some, you know, even knife duels were not uncommon. The Indians did that all the time. So if you want to be a non-colonialist and you want to maintain your honor, there's nothing more American than a good old-fashioned knife fight. And knives actually will kill you quicker than bullets, but that's my 2 cents to that.
No kidding. The hell, it could be like pillows. I don't care.
Exactly.
You know, kind of on the same lines. My son was being bullied horrendously, and there's this one kid that was just so much trouble. Even the teachers were, just frustrated with this kid because he was, even for a little guy, he was a big bully. He was just, bully is uses the power of words. And this one day, it's like my son was, he fought PTSD from his big brother having cancer, so he's a big crybaby. I'm sorry, I'm just gonna say that he was. And this little kid that was smaller than him just kept, pounding him with his words. And he even just annoyed the teachers. And on the playground, the teacher just kind of just rolled his eyes and turned around. And, you know, my son was so proud that he had defended himself. He didn't sit there and go around and beat up the bully, until he was dead. No, he just defended himself and made him stop being hit. Every time the kid threw a punch, my son, stopped the hits. And he didn't really hit back. He just stopped the punches. And after that, it's like that kid had been put in his place. He stopped picking on my son. And then, in fact, 20 more kids stopped picking on my son because they're like, hey, he might be, full of emotional tears, but he can defend himself when the time comes.
Here's the way I look at it. 3 times in my life I can point to. And one, I was under 5. I know that. And this kid was older than me. And I made the little fucker eat dirt because at first he punched me in the nose. I'd never been in a fight before. And my mother locked the screen door and said, kick his ass. And I did. I made him eat dirt. I put his face in a mud puddle and started yelling, eat dirt. I didn't get fucked with after that. Then the second time, of course, you do your bullshit in high school, but that's all just testosterone fueled bullshit. But like in the Army at 17, going through basic training, this one kid was just smarmy. And actually, we became good friends. I can't remember his name, though. It eludes me, but it was funny how we first met. Um, he was trying to punk me all the time. And, he was smaller than me and whatever. But I took it because I'm good natured. It takes a lot to piss me off. And then one day he called me a cunt. Well, that was the first time anybody called me a cunt. And I'm like, I don't have a fucking badge, but you know what? I'm about to talk to you when we get into the barracks. And he's sitting there like Mr. Coolio. I walk over to him. I'm like, okay, bitch, you called me a cunt. Get the fuck up. And he had a, I'll never forget it. He had he stayed sitting down, right? And he had it wasn't basic training. It was AIT MP school. I just lied to you. Sorry about that. Because I had to remember we couldn't have pogey bait. But he had a Hostess Twinkie in his hand. And I snatched it out of his hand after his cunt ass wouldn't get up. He couldn't say anything. I thought he was going to piss himself. And he had it in his hand, and I snatched it out. It's all mangled. Everybody laughed when I did it. I shoved it in my mouth, and I said, don't ever fucking act like that to me again. And he looked terrified. And but he didn't get up, so he's a cunt. So he never dicked with me again, and actually was a decent dude. But, and then the last time that it happened, I'll never forget it. This dude was massive. But he was just somebody who was doing something, and I'm being cool about everything. And during the time that it happened, I really can't get into many specifics, but he happened to be somebody that was just ancillary. And so we had to settle it a different way because his way of bullying was always putting his hand on his gun. He wasn't anybody that was on our side. It was somebody that I was training. And finally he went to do it. And then I had to handle the business, because it happened too many times and his words were conveying something and I articulated the facts and never got bullied by another person after that. So, there's cases of it. There's different levels of extreme. But like I said, the key fact was my mother locked me out, unlike the mothers of today, locked me out by locking the screen door and then looked at me and said, kick his ass, knowing I'm probably going to get my ass kicked. And in the end, I think it was the fear, the terror, and I couldn't get back in my house. That even made it worse. I figured I couldn't get back in my house ever if I didn't kick his ass, and it fueled a rage. And that's how bullies are beaten. It has to be total and complete war and rage.
Well, I know of two incidents in my life where in grade school, there was, I guess I don't know what grade school. I guess it would have been seventh grade. But this gal, she was like, she knew how to fight. I didn't, but everybody kept pushing us to fight, and she punched me in my mouth, and I thought it was funny because she punched me with braces, so she actually bled instead of me. Um, we actually, chilled out and became friends after that. Um, there's another incident in high school where they're just pushing, and that's the problem with a lot of these bully cases is there's like their friends are instigating it. And they were instigating me and this girl to fight,
Yep.
and we actually became extremely best friends. And I actually wrote about that in my sci-fi book because that's a real life scenario. Sometimes these bully cases, either they'll learn that they can't, you know, bully, or they'll learn that they can't back up their bullying, or they'll become best friends. And you really don't know what the scenario is. And I think it's a lot safer for an adult to be there than so many times a lot of the fatalities happen when nobody's, putting down the rules of, hey, okay, point one for you, point one for you, back off.
Right.
There needs to be a
Referees.
controlled situation. And that's what the dueling laws were, is they provided the safety net of things being still in control.
Oh,
And
yeah.
in some ways, I would liken that, I'm sorry, it's probably a bad reference, but a doula. A doula is a labor support professional. And, she's there to support and use her brain and her wits during a time of crisis. Um, and I'm not saying babies are a crisis, but, both parents, their brains are lost during that time period. And so she's like the referee, to make
Right.
sure everything happens the way it is. And that's like that teacher, he was still there, but he's like, this kid's been pushing it forever. He's gonna have to get what's coming to him because he's out of control. The parents can't do anything about it. The school system can't do anything about it, and he needs to be, and in some ways a lot of these bully cases are that they don't, they're having emotional problems at home, and they just need that testosterone let out. And if they're not in sports and in football and stuff to let out their testosterone, then they just need to be able to, punch it out,
Well,
get rid of that.
even if
My
even
mine
if
was push-ups.
even if
I
it is in sports, the testosterone let out. Look at what they're doing to even sports. They're making it safer and safer, which is
Yeah,
causing worse injuries, debilitating injuries, than
yeah,
just and we find out now with all the protection that everybody wears, Concussions, TBIs have increased, traumatic brain
Yeah.
injuries. Figure out why that is because everybody feels safer, so they hit harder and they tear a lot more ligaments, a lot more joint injuries. I mean, so what could have been a bare knuckle dust up has now turned into something that will last with you for life.
But you also got to remember that the kids nowadays are getting more concussions than we did at our age because their skull um, lining is thinner, and a lot of that has to do with the diet that we're on, where we're not getting the same. The kids are not getting the same vitamins and nutrients we were because what's bad is good and what is good is bad. I
The
mean, the
GMOs.
FDA the FDA is saying that Cocoa Puffs and chips are and Mountain Dew is healthier than raw milk and raw eggs. Excuse me. That's and then they're giving us fake vitamins that just pass through our system and just pile up in the landfills. You know, um, not only that, but um, they're pumping hormones in all the foods. It's like they're calling hydroponic plants, they're calling them organic, but they've never touched soil. The roots have never touched soil. And I'm sorry, but fungus is a very big need for plants in their production of food. And we're ruining the soil with pesticides. We're killing off the worms. We're killing off the good bugs and good bacteria and the bees, and we're causing our own destruction, but not looking after the little guy.
Through
Sorry.
GMOs. No, no, no.
Yeah.
You're exactly right. Through GMOs, also through Roundup Ready seeds that are
Yeah.
engineered. I mean, look, Silent Spring, which was a book written back in the 70s. She was saying, well, eggs are being deformed because of, shoot, I'm going to say the wrong word. It's something. Anyways, I don't want to get into it because I can't remember the exact technical terminology, and people will eat me up. But they'll, if they read it, they'll remember what that is, or they can correct me in my chat when this goes live. Um, but the fact about it is, or when it debuts, that's what they call it. Since I can't live stream, it's not really going live. It just debuts or premieres. Anyways, the thing about it is, Silent Spring was a misnomer, but in a way, it was a warning. It was a warning about our own technology and how, with foodstuffs, we would actually do our undoing in a legitimate way through human monkeying with it, whereas Silent Spring was a fraud, and it's been found to be a fraud. But this is not a fraud. And then you have to think about like Fukushima, what it's doing to the fish still,
Yeah.
radiating that. So, I mean, there's a lot of issues that in modernity aren't being addressed when they should be, even if there's nothing. Look, it's about honesty in politicians. That's why everybody enjoys Trump. You get what you paid for with Trump. And the funniest thing to me is if other politicians were that honest, they would be like, let's say global warming's a hoax, in my opinion, but could it be warming? Yeah, if the sun lasted, during hotter days, the summer, there's global warming. In the winter, there's global cooling. I haven't noticed really any other difference in that. I remember we haven't had a blizzard like the blizzard of '78 since I've been alive. And that back
Well,
then they used to say America was going to, or the world was going to globally cool. Then they said under Clinton it was globally going to warm. And now, because they've been proven wrong both times, it's global climate change. So they don't know what the fuck they're talking about, and they never will. But I do think
well,
humans do have a push in, but they will never destroy the planet. That's my point.
if I can remember both points. One, you know, nobody was allergic to bread until they started screwing with our wheat. Two, um, the reason why humans are having a hard time with some of the a lot of the antibiotics is because they've been pushing antibiotics in our food, in our chickens, in our beef, and it's made it to where the humans have drug resistant viruses
Yep.
because our foods has got the antibiotics in it. And now they're trying to sit there and well, our food's not healthy, so they're going to start making up genetically modified food, like growing meat in a lab. um and
Oh,
back to your point on
yeah.
global warming, every 50 years the earth is closer to the sun. There's going to be a natural global cooling and warming based on other factors.
Right.
Not to mention, I know a Kansas geologist. He said that um, the magnetic pole has shifted like very slowly for several years, and this last year it made a huge jump. What took it forever to move, it made a huge jump. And he also said that in the Earth's history that we'll have magnetic pole shifts, and he said that we're
Right.
due for one, where it's a reversal. The North will switch with the South. He said we're due for one. That just happens over time. That is, the sky is not falling.
Right.
I'm sorry. A lot of excuse me. A
No
lot of
problem.
Marxism is based on the doomsday cults. The sky is falling. That's how they control.
Right.
That's how huge governments control the citizen. Is control the food and control the fear, and you can control the people.
Yeah, you're right.
And
You're
that's what's happening.
yeah, you're right
Um,
on that. You're right on that. The one thing that about food stuff is they also aren't talking about the water, especially in the cities where the sewage treatment plants are actually turning the water from the sewage. You know that how they purify it, right? But they
yeah,
can't
but they're
take it.
not pulling out the
But
hormones.
that's where I was going with it. They can't take out the false hormones, the female estrogen from the water that's actually being pushed from females taking birth control. Because that's another thing about human control. And not only that, the plastics they've been making,
Yes.
they have a plastic estrogen that mimics female estrogen, so you're naturally going to get more emasculated men. And I think you agree with me on that, so
Yes.
run with
Yes. Because soy formula is like giving a baby 5 birth control pills a day. All these guys going around saying that they're gay from birth. They're not gay from birth. They're gay because their hormones were stunted with the soy formula. And estrogen, a huge amount of estrogen creates a healthy environment for cancer cells. So that is why you're seeing an increase of cancer is all this hormone problems. I have firsthand knowledge of the hormone crap that they put. I was diagnosed at age 16 with endometriosis, which is basically too much estrogen. And people like that have to stay away from food-induced estrogen.
right.
And um, what I was gonna say was they put me on different chemicals to try to keep my uterus from self-destructing so I can still have children. And being on birth control actually tastes women's taste in men. It changes their taste in men. Um, which is, it's like all these like Axe. Oh my goodness, Axe. I could just follow Axe to the end of the world because it has the pheromones that drives me wild. Um, and they put these, they're changing um pheromones for men to attract the wrong women. They're putting the estrogen in the birth control for women to attract the wrong men. You know, I'm sorry, but the reason why you've got a huge divorce rate is increased with them screwing with our hormones.
Not only that, you think about the pornography problem. This actually, I want to do a show with you just on this in a few next few weeks. But I think you identify the same issues I do. Look, pheromones are a normal thing that the body excretes normally, and it is a decision maker for both man and woman, the natural scent. But how do we deal with that? And this is a rhetorical question you don't have to answer. But how do you deal with that when pornography, which is all being pushed by a certain, Hollywood? That's all I'll say. Um, when you have that being pushed, and the women who are involved in that mostly don't represent an adult woman. They represent a woman that uh, I've done shows on this where women shave everything, and that's all I'll say. And to me, in my experience as a young man, every woman I've met that did that, there was some major issues. Like they wanted to be 9 for life. They wanted daddy, and
Mm.
that's
We
not,
will
huh?
definitely have to do a different show on that because I've got tons of opinions on that.
Right. But I'm just saying on that, I'm the pheromone is what I'm talking about. I think there's also a difference in the pheromone when you stop nature. That was my point.
Yes.
And you with pornography, it's a visual thing. And it's all being done the general thing that we just talked about, it's all being done in a planned thing to populationally control us to where we're not having the babies, just like the abortion mills that we have in the U.S. But I mean, this goes into a lot of different things that it is
Yeah.
trying to pick
I've
and
got
choose who survives.
I've yeah, I got five different things to five different points about what you just made up, and it definitely that is a whole nother topic, a whole nother show, because I definitely have different opinions than other people out there.
Well, that's why you're on, for the female perspective, and I really look forward to a spirited conversation because we can
Oh, you'll get one.
we can disagree on many things, but not be disagreeable. I really genuinely think the world of Princess Wells, and I mean that wholeheartedly, and I think she knows this. Otherwise, I wouldn't have her on my channel. And I always say on my channel, look, I can disagree with everybody fundamentally about everything, but as long as people aren't being jerks to each other, I would never. Look, here's the point. You and I could differ on several issues that I brought up, or all of them, but as long as it's maintained and each of us hear each other, honestly understand each other, and we're not coming out of bad faith or trying to poke the bear or trying to screw with somebody, I have no issue with
Mm,
that. The issue I have is when people use conversation as a weapon or to shut the other person up. And I mean that.
See, I constantly push. That's what we've lost in society is respectfully agreeing to disagree. And that's where we've lost civility,
Yep.
is we have forgotten empathy and treating other people like humans. And that's why that I hate to say it, but society is heading for a civil war because there's them and then there's us, where they're both sides are dehumanizing the other. And once you get past that dehumanizing, there's just no stopping um, conflicts going out of whack.
And there's no pressure valve like pressure cooking. I've said this
Yes,
often. A pressure cooker has a vent, has a valve. And that
yes.
valve's there for a reason to alleviate the chance. Using this terminology is bad, so I don't like using the word that everybody says, oh, my pressure cooker exploded. It's a buildup of steam, and instead of saying exploded, which is a loaded term, people would be able to say whatever. It causes the lid to violently pop off, and everybody in the room gets burned by it. And they know this, so they put that they got something instead of a valve. They just welded something around it, so you can't relieve the pressure with the conversation. So what's the final outcome of that? Everybody in the room, without having conversation, even though you vehemently disagree with you that you could maybe find some common ground on, you vehemently disagree, but that valve's no longer there. So guess what? Everybody's going to get scolded by it. And I've seen revolution. I've seen failed nation states. And anybody who has this sticky, wet masturbational fantasy of what civil war looks like, you're absolutely wrong, because it's something nobody should see. And you don't want that in your own nation, folks. That's the point
That's
of my entire program.
that's it's like popping a zit. Zits will either pop on their own, or you do a cleansing herbal treatment to get rid of it naturally, or you have somebody put pressure on it until it pops. And I'm sorry to go down the conspiracy rabbit theory, but there is outside forces outside of America's best interest trying to start a civil war. They are trying to cover that relief valve so that we do implode, because that way outside forces can come in and take over.
Yep,
You
the
cannot
Marxists.
you cannot sit there and defeat a house that can stand on its own 2 feet. But once you knock off their kneecaps and they have to crawl, then that's when you got them. It's like, how on a board of chess. How do you know some people don't realize that taking out the pawns um is silly. But anybody that knows chess, if you take out the pawns can't turn into a queen.
Right. Here's another point that and we'll have to wrap the show, because if I don't wrap it, even though we're doing it at this time, we're looking at the late evening. It's honestly like an hour and something, and then it'll premiere at like 11 o'clock, and I want you to be in the chat to answer people's questions, because I
Oh
know it'd be
yes.
great. But my point is that, look, the Second Amendment, to wrap it up and maintain ourselves on the Second Amendment, and then I want your final statement on it. The Second Amendment should always be looked at by a prudent man or woman, okay? And when I say that, I use the classic definition that the Revolutionary War founders used for that Second Amendment. The militia was everybody from 14, some people even say 12, to 60. Okay, and 60 was a super long. That was like an octogenarian now, very rare. But the point being is, those prudent men knew the Second Amendment was not built for duck hunting. It wasn't
No.
built just for hunting the deer. It was built to keep the enemy outside the gate. And so
Yeah.
we could all join together to defend our great nation. And now, by letting the enemy within the gate, we now have, and we had it before during our first Civil War, we let the enemy within the gate. Now we have the same, everybody from the Civil War did join back together, and we respected each other's forces and understood that we still complemented each other as a nation. We are now, I believe, more divisive in this nation
Oh.
than before the last Civil War. And with that, I just want prudent men and women to remember it is the final solution. All talk has to be done, but how does all talk exist when they censor it? That's the question.
Well, my final words would be we have lost time to sit down for a cup of tea. We have lost that hey, you like comic books, I don't. Let's still get along and support the Second Amendment. And, hey, you like rap music, I don't. Let's sit down and support the Second Amendment together. We have lost that. Um, it's like with that confusion with my post, just because I like to dress up as Catwoman doesn't mean I can't support the Second Amendment. You know, why can't we just ignore the things that are not killing us and just respect each other in the opinions that are similar? Okay, like I'm sorry to say, but there's this huge drive in the Christians and Jews in America now. There's a huge division. There's a division between the different Jewish sects. There's a division between the Christian sects.
The
Everybody is
Islamic
holding on
sects.
to, yeah, there's everybody is holding on to a piece of offensiveness, and they are trying to find their safe space, and they're pushing everybody away when we should be ignoring the things that we don't agree with, that's not killing anybody, and just agreeing to support the areas that we agree on.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. Look, a safe space is not as valuable as a polite space.
Yeah.
And that's where I can disagree with you respectfully. And you know what? There may even be some movement to your side of it, or maybe even to my side of it. And it may be a small movement, but there's understanding that's built out of this. And I think that's what they're trying to stop. They don't
I'm,
want understanding to, oh, I disagree with vehemently, but there is a point here that I understand. And there we go. It's over, you know?
See, I think that there's just been a misunderstanding because I don't think you disagree with me on that. I think we're on the same page on that. I'm just saying that there's people are looking for a safe space, but I'm not. I agree with you wholeheartedly that there is a difference between a polite space and a safe space. I completely agree with you. I'm just
Awesome.
saying that that's what we're seeing is people are looking for their own bubble, I guess you can say, and they're pushing everybody outside of their bubble, and that's the wrong way of looking at it. We should let our bubbles touch each other, and we should all make a bigger bubble together, even though we're still individual bubbles inside a big bubble.
E pluribus unum. No, I agree. With that being said, folks, now you know why I have Princess J. Byrd Wells on. And I mean this. Look forward to the next conversation. Uh,
Yes.
Everybody, thank you for stopping by Kaiser's Castle. I'm going to put the outro music on. Please mute. And I'll talk to you offline afterwards. And with that being said, thank you for stopping by Kaiser's Castle, taking a seat on my big orange couch. Love that you came here. Pop your tea. Hopefully, it's good tea. Also, grab yourself a nice coffee if you don't want tea. Maybe a soda, or maybe some adult libation. But whatever you do, whatever you want to drink while you listen, thank you for stopping by Kaiser's Castle and taking a seat on my big orange couch. And the outro music is Sojourn to Sikkim, and that is by Axion Ghost. Thanks for tuning in. Shuff out.